today I'm going to be speaking a bit more about the yesterday's video that I put out about Google's email that's recently gone out. The email is basically sent out saying there's been an update to terms of services and they're leaving the EU basically. So yesterday I kind of covered the basic aspect of that email, but I think after a bit of investigation I've got more information to share with you about that topic. So let's get into this straight away. I have already done a video yesterday and a few building up to this week where there's been investigations into Google's data policies. So for example, 3 days ago I did this one where Google sent your private photos, videos to strangers. I'll link this in the cards, or I might make a playlist or something, but have a look at those for more information about like the overall arching issue. Also, Google and Tinder were under investigation in Ireland over data policy breaches. So because I think there's been slowly building up to something happening, and Google's basically using their data the way they want to use it. And GDPR is a regulation which governs how data is being used, and it's a big thing at the moment, well, not at the moment, but past year or so, especially for finance companies where they want to make sure the data is being used in the right way. Google doesn't seem to like that. So what they've basically done is they've gone and changed how they work. So because they're so big, they can do what they like, really. Because legally, they've got a team of lawyers. So, for example, if there's a regulation or rule that applies to this country, if they're based here, they have to comply with it. If they're not based here, then a whole new set of rules applies. So that's what looks like they're doing. So I'll try and keep this simple. If you've had that email and you're a bit worried, what does it actually mean? What's happened is Google is leaving the EU before the UK is. So the whole of shipment they've shipped their services from Ireland to the US, or they're going to be shipping it in March. So that means they used to have an office in Ireland, and that meant that they had the UK laws. But now if they get rid of that, they'll have their governing body in US looking after it, then those rules won't apply. So at the moment, because the UK is leaving the EU, there are some things that aren't clear in terms of what applies, what doesn't apply, what happens that we used to use the rules from the EU for example, policing certain copyright laws and things. But now that we don't have that, do we have to write our own? So that's a whole new kettle of fish. But that's more legal terms than actual contracts and things like that they got to sort out. So Google thought, wait a minute, it's taken them this long to get out of the EU. How long is it going to get for them to get to these policies and make their own versions of them? So let's just make it easy and move to the US and use those rules. It's a benefit for Google in particular, because there's an article here, the Register, where they're basically saying Google users will see their data shifted to the US-based data controller from the end of next month, with the adjoint blaming Brexit for the move. So they're going to be basically governed by different laws. It's going to be a benefit for Google, because in that same email, they're actually saying we're combining Google browser, Google OS, as in Chrome OS, and Google Drive into the same set of terms and conditions. So that applies to all of those things basically, and how they use your information. The UK regulator in the Information Commissioner's Office, our role is to make sure the privacy rights of people in the UK are protected, and we are in contract with Google over the issue. Any organisations dealing with UK users' personal data should do so in line with UK Data Protection Act 2008 and GDPR. So you see how that's worded. If they're in the UK, then they got to be, but if they're not, they're not. So they're basically trying to be clever. They're looking at loopholes and they're moving elsewhere. So we'll see how this unfolds and what ends up happening. But if you've had the email, the main thing you want to take from that is they're moving. The Ireland registered office is not active anymore, and they're going to be controlling it via the US. There's been a few comments on Reddit about it. So as far as I'm aware, the user saying here, them blatantly telling us that they are going to breach not only GDPR laws, but UK data protection laws as well. If I recall correctly, they have already been fined for breaching GDPR laws already. Part of the issue with corporations like Google, that they are so large and have so much money that they don't actually give a hoot about following laws in the first place. So yeah, you'll keep an eye on this, but this is a bit of an email to give you a bit more context, because I've had a few comments in the last video and I think I've learned a bit more since yesterday, and we'll keep an eye on this. But if you've had the email, keep an eye out and subscribe here so we can actually give you some updates as this unfolds.